If you're muted, just wave, that's all.
There we go. There's everybody. It's good to see everybody.
Okay, we're ready to start.
Welcome to the organizational meeting for the County of Franklin Industrial Development Agency, January 12th, 2021. I'm Jeremy Evans, the CEO of the IDA, and welcome everyone to our meeting. First of all, I'd like to welcome our new members, Madeline Fleury and Michael Duran. We're happy to have you guys join our team, and really, I think I speak for staff and board. Really look forward to getting to know you, work with you, and as important as those two things are, put you to work. I think been a fairly proactive board, which we certainly appreciate. At this point, I will ask Jim Ellis, who is our nominating committee chair, to present names for potential names for officers for the IDA.
Thanks, Jeremy. For our new members, excuse me, I chair the governance committee by appointment of our chairman, Justice Martin, from last year. But the carryover is that the governance committee's charged with making nominations for officers for this coming year. So the offices are chairman, vice chairman, secretary, and treasurer. I'm happy to say that I finally got the line to stop extending itself. There were so many people standing in line waiting to take the jobs. But I'll come up with 4 people that as I used to say in the Army, okay, you just volunteered. So we have a slate. Now let me explain that to you. The slate is what we're presenting. If you have other nominations that you wish to make from the floor, then at the point that we determine whether or not there are any other nominations, either silence means that there are no other nominations. And if there aren't, I'll direct the secretary to cast one ballot. In this case, it would be myself, I guess, because we will have had, if Sherry's aboard, I'm not sure if she'll be back. Anyway, the slate that we'd like to propose for the next year is for Chairman Justice Martin, Vice Chairman for myself, Jim Ellis, Secretary Sherry Boyer, and I'm again glad that she stepped forward, and our Treasurer Archie McKee. And again, thank you, Archie and Sherry, both for stepping forward. That is our slate of officers proposed for the year 2021. Are there any other nominations? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I just need to interject. We do need an assistant secretary and an assistant treasurer as well.
We may want to do that, Maria, after the appointment of the officers, because I think that's a Justice Martin appointment. So we could just leave it until we, if Justice is elected as the chairman,
Okay.
a ministerial appointment. So the slate again, Justice Martin for chairman, myself, Jim Ellis for vice chairman, Secretary Sherry Boyer, and our treasurer Archie McKee. That's the slate that we present. Are there any other nominations? In the absence of any other nominations, I will cast one ballot for the group aforementioned, Justice Martin as chairman, myself as vice chairman, Sherry Boyer, secretary, Archie McKee as treasurer. So done, Maria. I cast one ballot for the slate.
Okay.
And we'll remind Justice that he has to make an appointment either now or soon for assistant secretary and assistant treasurer. Thank you, Justice. It's yours.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? I was having trouble with my computer. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. So we went through the nominating part. Does there have to be a vote to accept the nominations, or does the secretary cast that vote?
I cast the ballot because there is no secretary. And if
Okay.
you think it's something we should do, certainly I don't think it's gonna hurt anything.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and have a vote to accept these nominations?
Justice, could you appoint an assistant secretary and assistant treasurer prior to that, and we could accept them all?
I'll second the motion, Steve Ehrman.
Okay. Well, why don't we, for assistant secretary and treasurer, let's do assistant secretary is Steve Ehrman,
Okay,
and assistant treasurer, why don't we put Mike in as assistant treasurer?
Right on board, Mike.
Gonna get them busy. So do you want to do a roll call vote? So we had a first and a second, Maria, on the offices.
I got Steve as the second. I didn't get the first. I know Jim cast the ballot, but I didn't get a first for a motion to do the whole thing.
I'll move if you need a first, if we had a second, whatever.
I'll second.
Okay, Steve and Sherry. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. All in favor, vote aye. Sherry Boye,
Aye.
Michael Doran,
Aye.
James Ellis,
Aye.
Stephen Ehrman,
Aye.
Madeline Fleury,
Aye.
Justice Martin,
Aye.
Archie McKee.
Aye, and Michael, just so you know, the main job of the treasurer is to delegate all work to the assistant treasurer.
Expected that to come.
Motion is carried.
Fire.
Okay, very good. Well, who's excited for 2021? Let's make this happen, huh? A lot to do. We accomplished a lot in 2020, despite all the challenges, and certainly welcome to our new board members. And excited to be here to learn together and continue to advance economic development and its many, many opportunities here in Franklin County. So with that, are you ready, Maria, for the committees for the IDA?
I am. Let it rip.
Okay. So the required committees, audit and finance, we would like, my suggestion is for Archie McKee to chair that committee, joined by Sherry and Mike. The loan committee.
We don't have a loan committee for IDA.
Oh, that's LDC. Thank you.
Governance and anti-harassment.
Yeah. So the anti-harassment is chaired by Jim, joined by Sherry and Steve. And then the governance committee is chaired by Jim, joined by Steve and Madeline. So there were some other committees that, as Jeremy and I have talked different times, and I know it's come up in our board meetings about the different ways that with how busy our agency is, how we can keep everybody involved and yet keep things moving forward. I know it seems always a challenge to be able to get done in our an hour and a half, 2-hour meetings, what needs to get accomplished, and keep the board up to date and joined in with what all's happening and what all needs to happen. And so the discussion has been to have more committees, to be able for Jeremy to lean on, to have meetings with, as far as addressing the many different ways that our agency is working and the many different things we want to accomplish. So, and then in our board meetings, we have the time in our meetings for committees to report. That's a time for anybody on any committee to give an update as to any involvement they've been having on a particular subject, a particular interest. So for IDA, there's no more committees necessarily to present for IDA, but we will be looking at a few more for LDC as we get into that. Jeremy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
I think we could, I can just say a little bit, a couple of my thoughts for when we get to LDC.
Okay,
May I ask a question?
yes.
How many committees are there currently, and are they listed out on the website that I can go look at, or?
The existing committees that are in effect are listed on the website. What
Okay,
I'll end up doing, Madeline, is with all of your information that you guys have been submitting to me, I'll create a master board list that will include all the committees for the year that each of you will receive. So you have contact information and a list of committees.
okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, are we ready to, just trying to keep up with all my notes here. Are we ready to continue into the IDA meeting?
You have to
Was there
close
anything
the
else?
annual meeting, Justice, and then open the IDA regular.
You mean we have to,
You have to have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting and then you'll open the
oh,
regular.
okay, all right.
So move.
Thank you.
So
Second.
move.
Hey, do we have first and a second to adjourn the annual meeting? We got that right?
I've got Jim. Steve, you want a second? Was that why you had your hand up? Okay,
Archie seconded.
okay.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's call to order the January Franklin County IDA meeting. I don't know if we have any public comments at this time. But Maria, do you want to go ahead and do a roll call for this meeting?
I would be glad to. We have present with us Sherry Boyer.
Present.
Oh, Michael Doran. I guess you can say present. We'll just do it that way.
Present.
Okay, James Ellis,
Present.
Stephen Ehrman is on mute, but he's present. Madeline Fleury,
Present.
Justice Martin,
Present.
Archie McKee.
Present.
In addition, we have myself, Maria Bourgeois. We have Jeremy Evans, CEO. We have Marcy Gottsmer, Russ Kenyon, Phil Hans, and Kelly Burnett. That looks like everybody. Okay.
Okay, very good. So I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from December 15, 2020 for those of you that were there.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we have bills and communications. Anything?
Nope.
Committee reports?
we've got a couple of resolutions. We have a couple of resolutions coming up related to policies, and I think we can. That was something the governance committee was working on. So Jim, I think we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes.
Okay, very good. Okay, treasurer's report.
Okay, everyone has their packet, and in there are their financial reports. This is a good snapshot on how we did for the year because we've got the entire year. As you know, I always like to look at the new report that we've added, which is the budget versus actual report. That's the last one, and nothing is different than what we've been talking about. We've had additional income that came in. So we're ahead of budget on income, and although we had some significant expenses for the Tupper Lake Business Park that were not anticipated, at least compared to what we budgeted. Other than that, we did really well with the IDA expenses and income for the year. We may have a few outstanding things, but at this point, our total expenditures for the year were $294,000, which is approximately $90,000 under what we had budgeted, and our overall cash on hand balance, which is shown in the first table that you have, is looking good too. We're right now we've got $868,000 on hand, which is pretty good compared to where we've been in the last couple of years. So we are in a good position with the IDA. We know what our plans are for this coming year, and so now we're into 2021 with a pretty similar budget, at least for the IDA. That's all I have for my treasurer's report this month, and look forward to working with our new treasurer going forward. One of the jobs for the CEO is to assign the treasurer's report to the board treasurer.
Well, I've only been on the board, I think, a little bit more than a year, and haven't really been too involved or too inquisitive as to the reports, but I promise to improve on that during the next year, get a little bit more familiar with what is going on so that I can speak intelligently on it. And so I'll probably be calling on you all to maybe help me determine what some of these numbers actually mean. So, but thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you, Archie, on it. So that's for this month. That's the report.
Very good. So entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So
I'll make
moved.
the motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, that moves us to old and unfinished business. Maria is going to be sending out the board evaluations for us to fill out. Maria, do you want to give us a deadline, or
Sure.
what you're going to do if we don't return them to you, or?
First of all, these are only going to be for board members who served on 2020's board. It's just kind of a self-evaluation tool. You guys have all done them in the past. I dropped the ball on it because it was not done at the end of December. So I will be sending those to you electronically, hopefully later today. You need to complete one for the IDA, the LDC, and the CDC. Those get submitted to the New York State Authority's budget office. It's a requirement. So I would love to have them complete by Friday. If you can just fill them out, they're fairly simple to fill out by the 15th, and then I will get them off to the ABO.
Maria,
Yes.
can we make sure that both Madeline and Michael get CC'd on that, even though they're not going to fill them out, so they can see what the rest of us are doing?
Absolutely.
That's a good kind of educational effort, I think.
Absolutely will do.
Thank
Okay. Very good. Jeremy wanted to give us an update on the Tupper Lake Crossroads LLC project.
Thanks, Justice. So as most of you know, we received an application from Tupper Lake Crossroads LLC, IDA benefits application. I think in October. In November, on November 17th, we approved the initial resolution, which describes the project and then authorizes myself, Justice, our counsel, to negotiate with the developer or the applicant to see if there's a to come up with a proposed suite of benefits that would be appropriate. And that's what we were working on once that was approved. A couple of the required steps for that after that is for us to schedule and hold a public hearing in the jurisdiction where the project would happen. In this case, the village of Tupper Lake. That's the only required public comment that we are tasked with getting related to a project. And what we need to do for noticing that is to put a notice in the paper, and 2, notify the chief elected officials of each of the taxing jurisdictions. We scheduled the public hearing for Tuesday, January 4th. Thank you to those who were able to attend that via Zoom or in person. We noticed it in the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. We did send a notice by mail to each of the chief elected officials. So I just wanted to make sure that you all know that we met our minimum obligations under the noticing requirements for the project. However, meeting the minimum obligations is not necessarily what we aspire to. We do know that the IDA Board of Directors does have the authority to act on a pilot or other pilot benefits application on its own, but that does not mean that we are not interested in feedback from the public and from the affected taxing jurisdictions, including the county, the town, the village, and the school district. As was my practice when we last had our a pilot project last summer, which was the Constable solar project, excuse me. I reached out, in addition to the minimum requirements, I reached out to each of the taxing jurisdictions, the chief elected officials, and offered to talk to them in more detail about the proposal that is being considered, explain it, meet with their board members as they saw fit, and because I think it's important to do that. So I did do that. I was in touch with all of them prior to the public hearing, and as a result of talking to those jurisdictions, I will actually be attending the town of Tupper Lake board meeting this Thursday to talk about the project and the process, etc. So I think it's important to note that we met our minimum obligations, but we also exceeded them because that's the right thing to do. There's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. We received the we authorized the initial, the board approved the initial resolution in November. And contrary to what it wasn't said, but it was thought about, at least according to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise article. I think there was some conjecture on whether or not we were trying to hide the public hearing in the holidays, because I'm not sure why somebody would do that, but we actually purposefully did not schedule the public hearing for the time between Thanksgiving and New Year's in a pandemic year because, quite frankly, we knew that no one would be paying attention. That's why we scheduled it for after the holiday. Please note that the applicant was hoping that we would schedule a public hearing in December. Chose not to for the reasons I just described. So I think it's pretty clear that we're not interested in suppressing or not having public comment in regards to what we do. If anything, what we could have done better is to notice it well before the holidays or right after, so that the notice didn't get lost in the craziness of the holidays. But there's certainly no intent on my base for me, and I'm sure not for this board to look for ways to get around having good, thoughtful feedback from the public. So for those who were not on the public hearing meeting, it was pretty well attended. I don't know the exact attendance, but there was a lot of people on.
36.
36. I
Yeah.
really like the accessibility that Zoom provides. This is normally something that happens in person, but one of the governor's executive orders allows us to have it streamed via video also, because of the pandemic. And man, I thought it was just a great public meeting. The comments were thoughtful and respectful. Nobody was trying to dominate the meeting. There were really good questions, both philosophical, process-related questions, some that could be answered right then and there, some that need to be answered but couldn't just be answered right on the fly. It was one of those meetings that just reminds you of how amazing of a communities that we live in, because you had people that had important questions or concerns, but everything was done respectfully, and it was. I've been involved with. I've either been a part of, moderated, attended countless public hearings, too many to remember, and it was just it was really good. And so I, on behalf of everybody, appreciate everyone who took the time to attend and comment. So one of the things the most important thing I wanted to share at this time with the board about the public comments, and you'll be receiving the full comments once we get it all put together. Maria is working on that. Is a desire for the public to have ample opportunity to weigh in and provide comments and learn about the proposal on the table. And there's a number of folks who expressed that desire, and both members of the public, members of the town board, members of the village board, specifically a very specific request came from Mayor Paul Maroon, who asked if the public comment period could remain open for 30 days. What I'd like to propose that we publicize as a result of this meeting is that we do just that, that we keep the public comment period open until February 3rd, 2021. That would give plenty of time for me to be meeting with any taxing jurisdictions that are interested. We make sure to be able to answer the questions that we received, answer questions that still may come in, etc. And then that would also give us time, if the board so chose, to prepare, to consider a resolution for approving or denying the project at our February 9th meeting. So unless there is anything contrary, I would like to publicize that we will keep the public comment period open as requested to February 3rd.
Want
I'd like to make a
formal
motion.
on-
I'd like to make, Steve, I'd like to
Go
make a
ahead.
motion to that effect so we can get it on the board here.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
That we do extend the period till February 3.
Okay.
And
Go ahead, Steve.
I'll second that motion, Jim, if you're good with that.
And Jeremy, you'll keep the board appraised of any comments that you do receive?
Yes, yeah, I've got some, and we're collecting them and we'll package them all together for the board.
Is there any more discussions or questions before we finalize that motion? Okay, so do we have all in favor?
Aye.
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 Do a roll call, please. Excuse me. If I may, Justice, could we do a roll call?
Great.
Okay, so roll call vote on extending the public hearing for Tupper Lake Crossroads until February 3rd. Sherry Boyd,
Aye.
Michael Doran,
Aye.
James Ellis,
Aye.
Stephen Ehrman,
Aye.
Madeline Fleury,
Aye.
Justice Martin,
Aye.
Archie McKee.
Aye.
Okay, all set.
Right. Thank you for that report, Jeremy. Appreciate your goal to work with the community in this process and let us know if we can help. So that moves us on to new business. We have resolution 2021-01. It's adopting our required policies, the mission statement, investment policy, disposition of property policy, and our procurement policy. Entertain a motion to accept those policies.
So move.
Second.
And just discussion for clarification, the policies haven't changed since we voted on them the last time?
That is correct. We are just required to adopt them every year.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
question.
Good
So-
question.
So the ones that are out on the Franklin website, those were the current ones? Was it 2017 or something like that?
They should have been dated last year's date, but those
Okay.
policies have not been revised. They're the same that we adopt every single year.
Okay.
All right, did you get a first and a second? I didn't hear the second one.
I do. I have Jim making the motion and Archie seconding.
Okay, yeah, all right. All right, so do we want all in favor for this?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that leads us to our resolution 2021-02. We have some new and revised policies. the anti-harassment, the commuting, and the travel policy. Maria or Jeremy, do you want to give us an update on any of this?
We could also have, Jim, do you want to introduce it or do you want me just?
No, go ahead. I think you're, just for Madeline and Michael's information, our anti-harassment policy, we were sort of very male heavy on the governance committee. So now we have Sherry Boyer joining Steve and I on the anti-harassment policy. Just again, for the two new members, the governance committee is the one who investigates and then proceeds with the policy in terms of either getting it satisfied or moving it on to the next level. So.
Okay, so one thing that's changed with the harassment policy is that we had a sexual harassment policy in place, but upon review of our employee handbook and these policies, our consultant recommended that we update it to be an anti-harassment policy, much broader policy for dealing with harassment in the workplace. So that has changed, which is why we included it as a separate resolution. But the telecommuting policy is a brand new policy that's been that was put together by our consultant and recommended for approval by the governance committee. And related to that is a travel policy, same thing, provided to us by our consultant, recommended for approval by the governance committee. Telecommuting policy, we've obviously been doing an awful lot of that during this past calendar year, and I had asked the consultant and also our governance committee that we should have a actual policy in place since we didn't have anything that referenced working from home. And then the travel policy is something that we wanted to have because it correlates to our employee handbook and how this is something we've been looking at for a couple of years, but now we're ready to have something that clearly defines when travel is being reimbursed and from where, and the answer to where travel will be reimbursed from is where the employee is assigned as their work site. So, for example, Phil's work site would be our office in Malone, and anytime he travel is authorized for him, he would calculate the distance based on the courthouse. Marcy's work site would be Cary, and so in Saranac Lake, and she would calculate travel from there. So that we're finally getting all these pieces together between an updated employee handbook, which you adopted last month, the travel policy, and the telecommuting policy. So that's why they're separate resolutions, because these are all new and have been recommended by the governance committee.
These are new policies. They weren't in effect last year. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, I'm going to ask a favor. I wonder if we might table the approval of these. I have got to confess I'm delinquent and I have not had opportunity to review them maybe like they should have been, and I wonder if we might defer them until our next meeting.
There's no reason we can't do that. So I think that would be, you could make a motion.
Everybody else has read them, huh? I'm the
No, I am just reading it now, Archie. So you're not the only guilty person.
okay.
I did have a question, being I am reading it on the meals. Is that, for instance, you were saying Marcy is at the Cary. So if she travels to Franklin County Malone and buys lunch, that's not what you mean by meal, correct? Because I would think that would be like a regular business
Correct. Right. No,
dinner
just
overnight. Okay.
right. Yeah, if she was traveling out of town for something to Plattsburgh or Albany or whatever, then yes. But just traveling down to the other part of the county for the day, I wouldn't approve that.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Maria, is there any issues from your perspective if we table this?
No, the only piece that's new, of course, is the telecommuting one. Part of what you received is an agreement which each employee will have to sign. So we have that on file. That protects both us, the agency, and the employee by having this. So right now we have none, but there's no reason it can't be postponed till another month.
Okay.
May I suggest, please, that we adopt these temporarily until such time as we revisit it in the next meeting? Just in case there's something happens, on God only knows those things do take place. But I do think temporarily, temporary adoption could cover us. That's the important.
The telecommuting one is a separate one, isn't it, anyway?
Yes, it is.
That's
Yes.
the one you're referring to, Maria?
Yeah, telecommuting policy and procedures and the employee agreement, that's part of that.
I have no objection to that.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Move the temporary adoption of these policies till the next meeting.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second that. Steve Arman.
Okay.
So
Maria-
Houston, that means we'll put they would be in effect, but then we would bring them back up again for resolution.
Permanent adoption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or annual adoption, as the case may be. Yep.
Okay. Can you go ahead and do a roll call on this one, Maria?
Sure can. This is to temporarily adopt until our February meeting, the new and revised policies and employee agreement. Sherry Boye,
Yes.
Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Erman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Justice Martin,
Yes.
Archie McKee.
Temporarily, yes.
Okay. Carried.
Thank you. Okay, the next resolution is our to renew our lease agreement with our current office space in Malone. Why don't we have a first and a second, bring this to the table for discussion?
First, Steve.
Second.
Okay.
What if we could get them to cut the rate?
Jeremy, do you want to give a little explanation for, I'm not sure if everyone's up to speed with our lease agreement?
I think this is would be the third year of this lease. It actually ended in August, but the county has been pretty busy with some other activities. So we're just getting to it now. The only change from the previous 3 years is that the county is asked to increase the fee for services, which is cleaning and things like that, $200 a month. It was previously $100. They've been doing a higher level of cleaning, obviously, this past year, and so they asked to increase that to help cover that cost. Whether or not they would go for 50 cents a year on the lease rate, Archie, I could certainly ask them. Is that what you mean by cutting the lease rate in half? So this, I should mention the other change. The other change is that it automatically renews unless one of the parties chooses to do something different. So it was expiring here, but the county manager added some language that allows it to just renew. automatic.
And Jeremy, just for clarification, there's no escalator built into the lease, so when it automatically renews, we don't get a bump up in rent next year?
Correct. Yes.
So, good.
Okay, very good. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question. Is that in the courthouse? Is that where the lease is?
Yep.
Or-
Fourth floor. Yes. Fourth floor of the courthouse.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Why don't we finish this one off with the roll call, Maria?
Okay, roll call vote for resolution 2021-03 to renew the lease agreement with Franklin County. Sherry Boyer,
Yes.
Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Ehrman,
Yes,
Madeline Fleury,
Yes,
Justice Martin,
Yes.
and Archie McKee.
Yes.
So carried.
Okay, so that takes us to resolution 2021-04, the acceptance of the Empire Zone funds. Why don't we have a first and a second to bring this to the table?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Jim Ellis.
Did we get a second? I'm not sure. I'm
Yes,
not sure if
I
I
got
can.
Jim Ellis
Okay,
as
sorry.
second. Archie, did
Okay.
you make the initial?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha both.
Archie, I heard
Thank
Archie. Okay, so Jeremy, could you give us a brief explanation on this?
So the some of you may be aware of the Empire Zone program. It's a legacy economic development program that the state of New York had for many years, where you would identify certain areas within the county where if a business located within it, it was entitled to certain financial benefits. The program was ended by the state several years ago, but then there were businesses still receiving benefits over a certain number of years. That is now ended, and I believe that at the end of this year, the program is dissolved. Actually, the governments are locally by a board of directors, and it's all being dissolved. There's a balance of $43,240.49. A checking account. We actually have administered from the administrative side the Empire Zone, even though it's been governed by the board of directors, and I believe they would like, well, I don't believe, they would like to give the remaining balance to the IDA for economic development purposes, and have simply requested that we do a resolution accepting these funds.
Question. I like the idea that I'm not against the resolution at all. Anytime somebody wants to give us money, I'll take it. But the whole idea, and I think is something that we still have to wrestle with. We have been designated by the county board of legislators as the economic development agency for the county. One of the things that we really need to do is to come up, I think, with some kind of a discretionary fund, much like we've done already with the bed tax. Yeah, tourism and the bed tax. I think we ought to think about, as a group, we ought to think about where we want to place that kind of money to assist us in specifics and specific areas where we don't have anything that's ticketed. In other words, anything that's designated. It really should be there for, I think, especially for small businesses. They're just They're just getting so pounded, it's terrible.
Yep.
But that's just an aside. It doesn't require, I don't think, a vote or anything else. I certainly would move that we accept accept this money.
I agree with Jim. I'm curious as the original intent of this money was probably to help assist a small or any business in either start up or improving themselves. Are we limited as to what this money might be used for? I would assume it would probably be something similar in nature.
I'll share that. I spoke with Paul Cantwell, who is the board chair for the Empire Zone, and he just asked that the money be used for economic development purposes.
Which means, going back to your thought, Archie, I don't think we've really wrestled with this yet. And it's something that maybe we may want to think about if Justice wants to appoint 2 or 3 of us, or you, as the case may be, you as a treasurer and a couple of others to work with you, to come up with a thought as to how we could use this. And I just look at some of these poor people in the business, so-called business area, where they're getting pounded by COVID-19 regulations, they're getting pounded by administrative regulations, they're getting so tied up they can't even move. And I do think that it becomes a possibility for us, first of all, to find out if there's places within our budgetary processes where we can place it to be
Do we
used.
have a record of the businesses that were participating in the Empire Zone benefits?
I have
Well, I'm
that
sure we-
up here in a file. I know that the last business was actually the Holiday Inn. And it was for a period of 10 years that they were eligible for those benefits. So Holiday Inns was finished as of last year. So there is a list back in the files, and I'm sure Paul Cantwell has stuff as well. But I know Hotel Saranac was one of them from way back. I don't know how many, but I could get that information for sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Maria.
Welcome.
Maria, a quick question. Paul is the chair of the Empire Zones board.
He is.
Who is on that board? That's totally separate from the IDA LDC, right?
Correct.
Yes.
I've been managing the finances for Empire Zone. It's one of our QuickBook accounts that we have. And I've had 2 people that I've dealt with since I started here with Empire Zone, and that's Paul Cantwell as chair and Nick Russell. But essentially, there is no more board. That program does not exist anymore. And that's why they just need to give the money.
And the county basically has designated those 2 as the official custodians basically for that. Is that how that works or something? It's just curious to be a chair without having a board.
The county treasurer was a point of contact or a designee, but that board has always existed outside of our board, even though we administered those monies. Like, they would do checks for me every month for whatever expense. And Camoin followed up with all of these businesses and were paid a fee for that. But there is no more board. It is defunct. So.
Maria, do you
Paul
know
has been-
if the Empire Zone board had a final meeting terminating themselves, or did the state terminate them officially?
They did not. The program had an end date, and that has passed.
And that's all there is to it, because we've got a situation going on in Malone with, I don't know, a lot of you are probably familiar with Medco, Malone Economic Development Corporation. They were active for a number of years, and they went defunct in 2012, had no termination meeting or anything, and the people that had loans with them, the businesses that had loans with them, have been making payments to the village, and the village has amassed quite an amount of money. It's over $900,000, and we'd like to put that money back out to use within the community for business,
Great idea.
residents, whatever. but we're having quite a time in trying to put an official end to Medco. We are tangled up in a legal process, and it's a dirty, rotten shame. But by them not putting an official end to themselves, it's created a problem. We don't dare touch. We've been advised not to touch the money for fear of what might happen as a penalty in the future. So.
Interesting.
Well, I can't
Archie.
answer any of that. With Paul Cantwell being an attorney, I trust what his judgment is on how to best close up Empire Zone. So that's all I can attest to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Archie, we had the same situation in Tupper Lake with a medical, it was designed to bring doctors to Tupper Lake.
Yeah.
By the time we got finished with third-party payments and everything else, we didn't amass a fortune, but you're probably $10,000, $12,000. So we wrote letters to various places and we got answers back. And so we put those in the file and took the $12,000 and gave it to the village.
Well, we'd like to put it to good use. It's quite an amount of money. It's 900. It's almost $1 million.
Yeah.
Probably will be by the time we get done fooling around. But many of the board members that served on Medco are dead. They're deceased. And there don't seem to be a lot of records to access to enable a good, solid, sound financial termination. And it's in the hands of an attorney now to try and help us.
Who's your village attorney, Arch?
Well, we don't. We've just hired a new attorney. They're out of Glens Falls.
Well, I think that's the best place to start.
Yeah, and we've dumped quite a mess in their laps, and I hope they can help us because that money would do a lot of good out in the community. We could, the village could kind of set their own terms and rates and help any number of people. With it might fit very well like the bridge loan policy that the IDA had.
Great idea.
Great idea. It helped people who are waiting for a larger loan from a bigger organization. But boy, it's sad to see it sit there.
I'm sorry that I raised the question because I think we're holding up the meeting, but anyway.
I'm sorry too. I run off.
Yeah, that's okay. I would like to move the question just so that we can get the money in our hands.
Yes. So we had a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Arch.
Opposed? Okay, so don't see any public here for public comments. So the date of our next meeting is February 9th, 2020. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to the first meeting of 2021 for the Franklin County Local Development Corporation. And I will turn time over to nominating committee chair Jim Ellis.
Just as an aside, I think we can dispense with a lot of stuff if we have a resolution that nominates the slate of officers as proposed for the IDA itself. Justice Martin is chairman, myself vice chairman, Sherry Boyer secretary, and Archie McKee for treasurer.
okay.
Are there any other nominations? Just got to make sure of that. Are there any other nominations from the floor for anyone else? If not, I'll cast one ballot, and Justice, you go ahead and do the roll call if you want.
Go ahead, Maria, with a roll call vote to accept that.
Jerry Boyer,
Yes.
Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Ehrman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Justice Martin,
Yes.
Archie McKee.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay.
Maria, if you need a second on that, you could list me as a second. I'm not sure if you had that.
We had
After-
Jim casting the ballot and then we did
You
the
don't need a
Roll
second.
call.
No need for a second.
All right, thank you.
We did a roll call. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
So move.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
So, Art,
Very good. All right, so that takes us into our regular Franklin County Local Development Corporation meeting. The same, we have the same roll call as previously mentioned. So we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from December 15, 2020.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
You have a second? Archie?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I guess I I failed to appoint committees for the LDC.
That's okay. I'm gonna go with the same ones as IDA. I don't know whether tourism will be a thing down the line or loan committee, but we can address that at another meeting.
We can do it right now. We can do it right now. The committees aren't required for the organizing meeting. So
Right.
Okay. So just to cap that, the audit and finance, governance and harassment were the same as the IDA. So I can read off the other committees that we have for the LDC. The one unique to the LDC obviously is the loan committee. I would like if Sherry could chair that committee, joined by Archie and Madeline. And then there was some, like I mentioned before, there was some extra committees that aren't necessarily required, but hopefully it's an attempt to organize, be effective, and keep movement in all the many projects we have going and all the many things that Jeremy is trying to process as our CEO. So the one other committee that we had as an LDC was the tourism committee. And I would like if Steve would chair that committee, joined by Jim and Mike. The other committee we've had is the facilities committee. Jeremy has requested or suggested that committee could be broadened to embrace, economic development ideas, processing as we look at our facilities and our region. Jeremy, do you want to add anything to that, since it's kind of a newer?
To try to keep it short and simple for today, the idea is that we could create a committee that has an overarching purview of looking at our economic development, climate, and capacity, which is the first overarching goal of our comprehensive economic development strategy and our annual kind of strategic plans. And so we have a number of goals and activities that fall under that kind of theme. And so we thought we could align a committee to look at within that theme.
This is LDC specific or IDA and LDC both?
Yeah, primarily, I think for today's purposes, it's an LDC committee.
So to serve on that committee, I would like if Steve could chair that committee, joined by Archie and Jim. The other committee that one of the things that we want to, as an agency, be focusing more on is what we can do to get behind some of our agricultural needs in our area. And that along with that is an entrepreneurial focus as well, depending on obviously what, there's not necessarily ag in every town, but certainly some of our areas are certainly agricultural and need our involvement at some point. So I would like if Madeline could chair that committee, joined with myself and Sherry. Did you want to add anything to that, Jeremy?
Nope, you described that well.
And then the other big focus moving forward is our downtown revitalization. There's certainly some projects in place and more coming, hopefully. So I was wondering if Mike could chair that committee, joined with Archie and Steve. Jeremy, again, do you have anything you want to add before we move on?
Nope, more to come. This is exciting. I look forward to. I think this could be a lot of really help us stay organized and focused. And I've also heard from different board members over the last few months about a desire to be able to interact more with various members of our staff, and I think the committee structure can help us do that.
Good.
Yeah, so this is as a lot of things we've been doing. This is a new attempt to see if we can become more efficient. So if you got ideas and ways that we can make this work, that'd be great. All right, thank you all. Thanks for being willing to serve. I didn't hear anybody object to anything. Sorry to be the bad person today to put you to work, but I'm excited to work together with you all. Again, let's move on to Treasurer's Report.
Two parts of the Treasurer's Report. Our financial reports are first, and as I've discussed before, compared to our budget, we are out of whack in a number of areas due to the tourism contract that we had that we didn't originally budget for. So that's affected revenues and expenses. But if you strip that away, we are in pretty good shape. We have a good cash balance on hand, and so we're in decent shape. I will point out that I could have mentioned this with the IDA, but it's especially consequential for LDC. We retired a couple CDs recently. As you know, we've been doing some certificates of deposits over the last couple of years, and Maria and I decided with this last LDC CD that ended back in November, I believe, we put it out to bid, and the rates are so low right now that it wasn't even worth it. So we've just put it back into our checking account, and we'll watch how things go, and if things start to creep up, we can put it out. But compared to what we were getting, it's not even worth the time. So that's just one change that you'll notice between our December numbers and December. So that's all I've got on that end. We have our loan report, and if there's any questions about the loan report, Russ is here to answer those.
Jeremy, can I just ask a quick question? This is a little bit to the side, but with the very, very low interest rates, how much order of magnitude do you think we have lost or not gotten annually in interest on some of these large accounts compared to perhaps like 5 years ago?
From loans or from
Yeah.
CD?
Yeah, how much, I mean, could we have counted on X number of dollars and added into our budget when we had decent interest rates, even if we were going at, 3 or 4% compared to what we
Yeah,
had?
well, I think, I don't remember exactly, but I want to say we budgeted approximately $20,000 interest from CDs,
Yeah.
which we realized, but we stood to gain 1,000 or something, or 2,000 maybe. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if you remember, Maria, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
was,
just for an example, the LDC CD that just came due, the 9-month one, we had made $9,000 interest on that.
Yeah.
To reinvest it for another 9 months, we would have barely gotten 1,200.
Incredible.
We have a good floating interest rate with Community Bank on our accounts, so we're actually making more by having it stay in the checking account right now.
Right. Okay, so it's painful. I mean, you're basically talking about the equivalent potentially of a staffer or something, basically, for loss of interest for having the rates as low as they are. I mean, it's just something to have. I guess I'm thinking that, as things hopefully get better and the economy bumps up and we start getting some interest rates that are somewhat higher, and we could actually be better shape even if we keep our staffing arrangements and expenses lean.
The best investment for us are to find good businesses to support through loans.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the aside.
Great.
I had a question
Sorry.
for Russ on what you had said, Justice. Do we have any updates on Carpe? I mean, everybody else looks great. I just thought I'd ask.
I'm not sure what level of detail we should go into outside of executive session on that, but I'm happy to have a conversation. He had made a payment in December, so he's at least making an attempt to make payments each month.
Yes, I saw that. It was $100. If you guys talk about it in executive, I'll be off by then, but being it's part of our public meeting, I figured I'd ask.
Sure. Yeah, Jeremy and I have discussed trying to meet with him and discuss, how we might be able to restructure that loan to make that workable for him.
Good.
Fair enough.
I did talk to him a couple months ago about making regular payments, even if it's just a little bit, which he's been doing. He hasn't done it for January yet, but he's been doing it.
It's a small amount, really, small loan. So we're pretty lucky on all the others. So just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I do want to mention that we also have 3 applications that I'm working with right now, the applicants to finalize their applications, and expect to have those to come before the loan committee probably later this month.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved. Archie,
Steve will second.
All in favor?
aye.
Hi.
Opposed? So old unfinished business, obviously the board evaluations need to be done as soon as you're able to get them back to Maria. We have the downtown Malone Technical Assistance Project. Jeremy, could you give us an update on that?
This is a project which is completed, and I've asked Phil to give us a kind of an update on and show us some of the results of this really fun project.
Sure, thanks, Jeremy. So I'm going to share my screen with all of you and share with you the deliverables that we received from this technical assistance grant. We actually, hang on, I just want to make sure that everybody can see this, okay? Can everybody see my screen okay?
I can.
Yep.
Okay. So with the funds from the technical assistance grant, we contracted with Insight Architecture to draft design guidelines for downtown Malone. The design guidelines try to capture both the historical character and the context of the region. And in doing so, there are different segments of the guidelines, and I'll go through each with you. This document is actually a 70-page document, so I'm only going to give you a really brief highlight of each of the different segments that it's covered. In addition to these guidelines, we also secured facade renderings for 6 different properties in the downtown corridor. And when we get to that point, I'll show a small video that Insight has put together for us that highlights what the buildings look like now, what they historically looked like, and what the renderings look like. In addition to this video, each of the properties received a more detailed rendering and had some costs associated with that and what it would cost to complete these projects. So this PowerPoint here, just to go over each of the areas that the guidelines actually offers. So the first one is the materials for doing any sort of repair work or renovation work to the buildings. And again, the main goal is to bring these buildings back to life as they relate to the history of the region and in the context, all while using materials that are either sustainable, that don't require complete replacements, and that could be repaired if they need to down the road, and to really work with what's already there, not completely replacing anything. After materials, they give us some guidelines on storefronts. Now in the storefronts, there's some subcategories of windows. They give window recommendations. They also give recommendations for doors. And that also applies to storefronts that have both residential entryways and commercial entryways, and how you can really differentiate between the two. After the storefront properties, they do offer color schemes that really are pertinent to Malone, to the history, and to the context of our village. They do use the 60-30-10 rule. And what that means is you have a base color that is 60%, that you'll use on 60% of the outside drawing. You'll use 10% of a contrasting color, and I'll show you the colors that they've selected. And then you would use that 10% to really highlight some things that you want to stand out, and then you would use 30% of a similar color to complete the project. Just moving on to the color palettes, you can see here they've given many examples that fit our history and the context of sort of the Adirondack and the history of the village, like I said. After that,
just to interrupt briefly, are these recommendations or requirements?
These are recommendations. I think that the village, if they haven't already, they would need to adopt zones. Am I correct in saying that, Jeremy? Or correct a zoning policy?
Simply, they're guidelines, and but at this point are not required by the village.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something for the village to consider.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. So the village currently does have some zoning requirements or zoning rules for signage. And so Insight Architecture basically used all of those guidelines or all of those zone requirements and drafted some guidelines. And so they, in addition to what the village has already in place, they've made additional recommendations for both ground mounted signage, wall and window signage, projecting signage, and awning signage. And again, I won't go into all of those. This is a 70-page document, and we don't have time for that. Then the next area where they've given their recommendation is lighting. So there are 3 different types of lighting that they made recommendations on. There was linear lighting, some projected lighting or gooseneck lighting, and then backlit letter lighting, all with the recommendation or the guideline of using traditional incandescent warm lighting. And then lastly, the streetscape. This one I think is, so Insight Architecture made this statement that the street is a public living room. And I think that's a very powerful statement when you think about it. So they're offering their guidelines on how to make that space as best for not only the businesses, but also for people in the community as a way to encouraging business. And then they do give some recommendations on maintenance, just the normal stuff. selecting paint, keeping that up, keeping up any cracked windows. Fabric awnings do need to be replaced on a semi-regular basis because they wear over time. All the normal things that you would assume for maintenance. So if there are no questions on this, again, I can send everybody the actual guideline document, but just to kind of give you a brief overview of what they've worked on for us. Okay, if there are no questions, I'm going to move on to the short 3-minute video that highlights each of the different buildings that they completed facade renderings for.
See that? That part's in the- There you go.
Since we've been together, loving you forever is what I need. Let me be the one you come running to. Loving you well.
Nice.
All right, thanks for letting me share that with you. This was some really exciting stuff that we worked on. Any questions?
Very nice, Phil.
Thanks, Archie.
That was awesome, and I love the music that accompanied it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that you also noticed, especially in the video, the real effect that lighting has on downtown. I thought that Insight did a really fantastic job with highlighting the importance of lighting.
Yeah,
What-
good job, Phil. Thanks.
What struck me was those broad wooden it was like signboards without signs above a lot of those buildings, and just taking those off and going back to what they had been in the past really made a big change. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very dramatic.
It's neat.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So that was a $20,000 grant that we received from the Year of Main Street program to accomplish that. And thanks to the hard work of Insight, the village, Phil and Marcy, it's complete, and it will be used. Some of those will be used as the basis for the Main Street application that we are submitting this week. And yeah, Phil, I wanted Phil to walk everybody through every page of the design guidelines, but he said that wouldn't be a good idea. So I think what he did was better.
Thank you, Phil.
Great. Thanks, Phil.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very good. Good job. All right. So let's move on to our new business. Resolution 2021-01, adopting the required policies. We'll entertain a first and a second to bring that to the table.
So moved, Jim Ellis.
Archie,
Archie,
Excuse me.
any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that takes us to resolution 2021-02, the same new revised policies as in the IDA. Entertain a motion to bring that to the table.
don't move temporarily.
I'll second that. For what?
Okay.
So we're talking about 1 month again until February, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? So all in favor for the temporary adoption of these policies till February?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or do you want to do roll? Yep.
Opposed? Anybody
Since
opposed?
we roll call, Justice, since we roll call the first time, is that, am I correct,
Good.
Maria?
Go
Yep,
ahead, Maria.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sherry Boye is absent at this time. Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Ehrman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Justice Martin,
Yes.
Archie McKee.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. So the last resolution is resolution 2021-03 to authorize submission of application and execution of contract for NYMS program. Why don't we have a first and a second to bring that to the table, then we can get an update on that.
So moved, Jim Ellis.
Steve, second.
Okay. Can you give us a report on this, Jeremy?
If you recall, we approved a resolution almost exactly like this last month, but in preparations for our submission, looking at how we wanted to prepare the application, and the financing plan, I'm asking the board to approve it with one change, and that's in that last paragraph related to appropriation. So in the last one, we had a phrase that we would set aside $400,000 for interim and construction financing. This one it's different. It appropriates up to $500,000, which is how much we would ask for to provide bridge financing. Basically, what that means is that when a project is approved for a facade renovation, instead of the owner having to come up with a grant amount, we could cover that grant amount, and then once the project's done, we go get reimbursement and pay ourselves back. It reduces the amount, by doing it that way, it reduces the amount that the owner has to come up with and then wait for for
Yeah.
reimbursement. It just makes it
Makes
easier
sense.
for them. And the second part is to say that we are willing to, with due diligence, provide loans to owners for their match, to basically finance their match if they don't have their own equity, or financing from another source in order to complete the renovation. And we feel that if we can put these two things into our application, it will just help it by showing that there is cash around to help these owners do the projects.
I'd like to
Quite
speak,
frankly, the 750,000 from the loan program, I mean, we would do that anyway, but if the project were to pass muster, we would do it anyway today. I don't really need the resolution. It's just putting it in the resolution so it can be included definitively in the application.
I'd like to just speak to that other part of it, really, which is speeding up the process. A lot of times a person, I think, would like to make an application is scratching, looking around for the matching funds. At least this way here, we can get the loans up and get the project started.
Very good. Any questions or discussion before we do a roll call vote on this one?
Move
Go
the
ahead,
question.
Maria.
Okay, so this is to do resolution 2021-03 to submit an application and execution of a contract for Main Street program. Sherry Boye is absent. Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Ehrman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Justice Martin,
Yes.
Archie McKee.
I gotta abstain and thank you.
Okay, so moved. Abstention noted.
Good. Okay. So we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the LDC meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
So second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, opposed? All right,
Okay,
so that
welcome.
takes us.
Oh, sorry. Well, welcome to the Franklin County Civic Development Corporation meeting on January 12th, 2021. I will turn it over to the nominating committee chair, Jim Ellis.
As we did in the previous two nominations, I'd like to recommend that we appoint Justice Martin as chairman, myself as vice chairman, Sherry Boye as secretary, and Archie McKee as treasurer.
I just
Are
have
there
to
any other
say
nominations?
there is no treasurer for the CDC. Just to be
Not
honest.
required, Maria?
Right, correct.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Arch.
Well, all right. I was disappointed, but
I know, I can tell. Move the question. I'll cast one ballot for the slate.
Okay, go ahead, Maria, with the roll call.
Okay, to accept the ballot that's been cast, Sherry Boye is absent. Michael Doran,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes.
Stephen Ehrman,
Yes.
Madeline Fleury,
Yes.
Justice Martin,
Yes.
Archie McKee.
yes.
So carried.
Very good. And the appointment of the applicable committees will be the same as in the other agencies. So entertain a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
So move.
Second.
Okay. That takes us into our regular CDC meeting. Need a motion to approve the minutes from October 20th, 2020.
Steve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the treasurer's report, there's probably nothing much to say. Jeremy,
I wanted to report on the 31 cents of interest that we collected.
Woohoo!
entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
second.
Okay.
Steve,
All in favor? All in favor?
aye.
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 Opposed? All right, again, board evaluation reminder, which leads us to our new business to adopt resolution 2021-01, same as the other agencies. Entertain a motion to bring that to the table.
So moved, Jim Ellis.
You have a second?
Steve seconds.
Okay. All right. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. That's everything for that. Any other questions before we adjourn?
Do we by law need to go in and out of executive session or anything? Is that one of the things that we're required to do? And are there other boards I'm on where we go in and out, even if there's no business, is that something that, Maria, that we need to do or not?
As a public authority, we are required to follow their rules, which is to formally go in and out of executive session.
Okay, and have we done that? Did I miss something?
I don't think we need to for CDC or any
Oh,
of the.
No, it's only when we need to,
Only as needed,
as needed.
as needed.
All righty, good, thank you.
Very good.
Bless you.
Okay. Well, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Ellis.
Steve second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Thanks, everybody.